Claw Scott.
And I'm Chris Geiger, and our episode is covering the French Dispatch. You might notice we have these fabulous mugs from the French Dispatch pop up in New York City. There is a pop up in New York and in LA.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a lot of fun waiting in
Yes.
line and
Yes.
waiting in line to get in, and then waiting in line once we got in to participate in the various activities. But they were all great. And you can see a few snippets of what that adventure was like if you visit our Instagram account.
Yes. No
No
movies
movies
in
in hell.
hell on Instagram. Yeah, it was a really nice afternoon.
So, the French Dispatch, we both saw it in the theater. We both rated it pretty highly.
Yes, I think we did.
And I like Wes Anderson movies. I think I've seen maybe all of them, if not all of them, most of them. And I've liked all of the ones I've seen.
I know I've seen all of them. I own probably 2/3 of them on some type of Criterion collection, with the exception of like the last two. I love dogs. I love dogs, and then this one. So I guess everything else we own at some on a DVD somewhere that we probably don't watch. Uh, as we don't watch as often as we should. I love Wes Anderson's aesthetics, the characters. I love it all. Like I just want to live in this world where things are pastel and like aesthetically pleasing and Futura font and narrated by Angelica Houston or someone else. Um, I really like this film. I think it's a really cool ode to journalism, which is interesting at this time. Yeah, I can't wait to like dive in. I'm so curious to see what your favorite chapter of the movie.
So I liked all of them. I liked the interaction with Frances McDormand.
Yes.
I liked all of the interactions with Frances McDormand. I just love her, basically. I would watch her fold laundry if that were a show. Like, I liked the interaction where she was being set up by her friends on that blind date. I thought that was
Yes.
funny. The interaction with her and the young revolutionary, I can't remember his character's name.
Yeah,
Um,
I can't remember either.
yeah, I just thought that storyline was great. I also like the one where the police chief's son is kidnapped.
Yes. Yes.
I thought
I
that
thought
was
that
very
one
good.
was really good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I really like the first one of the prison artists, the painter or sculptor, and Leah Seydoux, and seeing her again after Bond, and seeing Benicio del Toro and actually Adrian Brody too, as like Adrian Brody's character is kind of like a goofy art dealer and trying to like maneuver. But I would have to say my favorite shot, or they've done this at least 3 times in this film, is when they do the still of everybody's like in action, and you can tell that it wasn't like digitally done kind of like in a matrix way, but it was like a stop camera with some things that were a little moving a little bit. I thought it was cute, and I really like that effect. I want to go to NMiH, like I want to go to this place, and I want to work for the French Dispatch. I don't know, maybe we can get into it later. Maybe this is not on the ratings, but I was surprised. Like, I would have to say that Frances McDormand and Tilda Swinton had the most. They were two female characters that had a lot to dialogue. All the other female characters, like they teased Elizabeth Moss. She was, I don't even, did she have a speaking role? Like there are so many people who did not have a speaking role that were in this film. Like Saoirse, I forgot what her last name is, was
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
police thing. And I thought for sure she was gonna like talk or something. No.
Well, she does a little when she's guarding him in the closet.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think that's if Wes Anderson comes to you and says, "Do you want to be in my movie?" You don't, like you get what the part that you get, and you probably say yes,
I
right?
guess
Like
that's
you don't say
true.
no,
Because
and
like,
you just
yeah, Jason Schwartzman was in it. He didn't really have a speaking role. Edward Norton was in it. Didn't have much of a speaking role. Yeah, I was just like surprised. I mean, I still liked it, and I'll probably buy the DVD. Maybe I'll go in the movie theater and see it again. I really liked it.
it's still out, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. It's weird. I do feel like right now we're in this weird lull period where we're waiting for other stuff to come out. Like, I don't know what the logic is behind when they release certain things. I'm sure it's much smarter people than I are working on that, but it seems like they either everything comes out at the same time or we're just waiting for that week when everything comes out at the same time.
That's so true. I think, well, it's weird because a lot of things got pushed back, and then it got pushed back further. So it's like early next year, sans like January. But I think a lot of people are trying to get their Oscar films out now. And since we didn't have that blockbuster summer that they counted on, like the Eternals and, major blockbuster films have been pushed back. Like, I know this is the French Dispatch episode, but like Ghostbusters, I think, comes out on Friday, which is odd because it didn't make the Halloween cut. It seems a little illogical, but maybe they had to go back to the drawing board and do something. But yeah, I don't know. Again, like I'm not well versed in like media logistics, but it seems as though maybe there's a sentiment around folks not going to see multiple movies at the same time, and it's just one of those like, oh, you have discretionary income, you'll see one movie this week as opposed to two, and so therefore they don't compete with box office results. But at the same time, like the audience for the French Dispatch will probably never go see the Eternals, go see Ghostbusters, go see Last Night in Soho, but majority of the box office share will probably go to the big budget. So it's a little interesting.
Now, when I went to see The French Dispatch, it had been out for a week. I'm pretty sure by the time I got to see it. I think you
Mm.
went the first week and then I got there like right after the end of the first week.
Was it
And
sold out when you saw it?
it was not sold out, but there were a lot of people in the theater. Someone was sitting, it was so funny because someone was sitting right next to me. And I thought, this is the first time that's happened in over 2 years that I've been in a
Mm-hmm.
theater where someone, and you're picking your seat in advance. So he knew I was sitting there
Yeah.
before he picked the seat, but he picked it because the whole rest of the row was full.
Yep.
Like it was, I'm not a germaphobe, but it was off putting because I've been so isolationist for so long that when I got to my seat and I saw someone was sitting right next to me, I was like, oh, this, there's something wrong. This can't be my seat. I've looked, I remembered it wrong, but then I looked and nope, that was right. And there were so many people in that theater, and it wasn't, it wasn't the IMAX, right? It wasn't the biggest theater that they have at Empire 25, but it was a medium-sized one. And
Mm-hmm.
for that to be full, a full week after the French Dispatch had been out on a Tuesday night. I mean, it wasn't on a Friday or Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was midweek. It was just surprising to me that so many people were there. So I actually think at this point, Wes Anderson has become mainstream. Like people who are seeing the French Dispatch are also watching Free Guy and Bond and those
Yeah.
other movies. I think part of that is Bill Murray.
Yeah,
Bill
that's
Murray
true.
brought a whole like universe to Wes Anderson that would have never maybe even wanted to see a Wes Anderson movie.
That's true. Alongside, what's his name? Owen Wilson. Yeah, that's true. Even though some people just like kind of don't get it, but they love Bill Murray, who, spoiler alert, is not in this film.
It's funny because it's hard to have a spoiler alert for, like, it's hard to spoil this.
Yeah. There's
Each
not much to spoil, actually.
right. Each individual segment is kind of what it looks like it's going to be in the trailer.
Yep.
You truly get exactly what you think you're going to get.
Yep. Yeah, it's just straightforward storytelling, an ode to old newspapers back in the day where people had their beats and like they charged premium and they had the freedom to do whatever they wanted, which was crazy. It was just, I'm going to go do X, Y, and Z, and I will take this along, to do it, and I'm going to invoice you, and you're going to have to deal with it. Like complete creative freedom. Covered like the most offbeat, off the wall things that are very synonymous with like the stuff that you see in like the New Yorker, the New York Times, these big notable publications. But not only that, like the journalists are celebrities in their own right.
Definitely.
I liked it. No, Addams Family too. Should I see that?
No. I mean, it's cute, but I wouldn't.
For Oscar Isaac.
It's cute. He is. And it wasn't as good as Addams Family. The animated one that just came out.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was okay. If I hadn't seen that first one, I would think maybe you should see it. But this one was not as good as that one. All right. So The French Dispatch, we both saw it. Oh, I think I have the wrong viewing date in there. I saw it after you did. So I apologize.
It's all good.
But you gave this almost a perfect score.
I did, with the exception of jewelry, because I really didn't see any, but I felt like it was a mood. I love the cinematography. I love the vignettes. Actually, I thought it was funnier than I anticipated. Just like the quirkiness of the different characters. I love Tilda Swinton's character. And I love the way that like that first chapter was presented too. It's kind of like her lecture into the research behind the beat that she was covering with regard to Benicio del Toro's character as being this notorious criminal who then becomes savant painter, or I guess artist, going down that thread of storytelling. And then it kind of sets up that tone of kind of slapstick comedy in the middle of just this beautiful, like expressionist artistic thing. And it's kind of goofy and endearing. I think the whole thing is kind of goofy and endearing. I really liked it.
I did too. I gave it a little bit lower rating than you did for acting, which I think is a pattern that we've seen over our past few ratings. A lot of really great actors were called in for this. They didn't get to do their thing, right? So I give it a 2.
So who like what movie did you give 3 in acting? Maybe Blue Bayou, right?
Yeah, maybe Blue Bayou. A lot of times I think when you have a good story, but you don't have a lot of money, it's the acting that sells it. And so a lot of times, if the acting isn't there, then the whole movie is terrible. But if the movie overall is good and they didn't have a very good budget, it's because the acting was good.
I can see that.
Not that Blue Bayou didn't have a big budget, but it certainly didn't have the budget that The French Dispatch had. We didn't go to a Blue Bayou pop-up in New York City. Right? Like that didn't happen.
For sure.
I just thought the acting was okay for the caliber of actors they had.
I think that the actors did the assignment, did it well. Quirky troupe of individuals that are covering beats that get away with being quirky individuals for a offshoot newspaper brand of in a fictional town, and like it's it's kind of a comedy of errors that like just works so well.
Agree. I also gave it a 2 in special effects. And you gave it
So, Chris, you really didn't like the special effects. I thought they were fantastic.
I thought they were what they would be for this.
So what I really liked was just the different elements. Like, so you had the bicycle reporter and like the slapstick, fall down the metro station gag. And then you had towards the end, right? I don't know if it was like a cost issue or maybe like a COVID shutdown, production. But when they went to animation, I really liked that the car chase animation piece, and then they kind of jumped back into the real life scenario. But the part that really stood out for me, as I mentioned at the top, was the still. I guess I don't even know what you call it. It's like a steady cam of that matrix shot, like you're doing kind of like a pan of still, and it's not perfect, and you can still see people move, and there's probably some like fishing wire that keeps things in suspension, but I absolutely love that effect.
I agree. I mean, I thought it was great. I expected that, right? Like, it's not that we haven't seen those types of things from him before.
I think that one I haven't seen from him before. All right, you need to watch Eternals, and we need to regroup.
You gave it a suspension of disbelief as average.
I did, because at some point, I'm pretty sure that this stuff like this has happened. I mean, it's a Valentine to so many different journalists. Some of these things are probably true.
I mean, I remember hearing that there was a guy who worked at the New Yorker for like a long time, and no one really knew what he did. He just kind of hung out. But the fact that he invented so much, he invented the whole town.
Yeah.
Made it the suspension of disbelief for me a 3.
Well, okay, think about it this way. How many small towns are actually owned by like, not small towns, but small newspapers actually have an impact on the whole town? There was a moment in the early 20th century where towns revolved around kind of their printing press, their domination of media. That part doesn't surprise me. I think that we're starting to see that smaller publications are being absorbed by mega corporations, and therefore like the local news is being like it's dying, kind of planting that flag even from afar, because I think Missouri or something like, or Kansas. Yeah, Kansas. And then being in like this NWE and covering kind of the global view is pretty cool. It's like very interesting.
Yeah, it was. I thought the stories were great. And it was interesting because at the pop-up, they were running out by the Sunday that we got there. So it was a choice between the Mug and Saucer or the French Dispatch, which if the French Dispatch had been the actual magazine instead of a pamphlet basically of production stills, I think that would have been more appealing than the mug. But it was a great pop-up experience. And I thought it was really well executed for the space that they had. They could have used a little bit more square footage for the experience to really be, for each activity to have its own space and not sort of be on top of the other one, right? Because people were in line for coffee, but that line sort of mixed in with the people who were in line to get their photo taken, which that line sort of got in the way of the line for people who were having their portrait drawn, which that line got in the way of people who were doing the postcards. So it was a lot crammed into a little bit of space. So that would be my only feedback to them, is that they had a lot of stuff going on. They could have done maybe one less activity and it would have been a little bit smoother.
I agree. And I never gotten my postcard yet.
Really?
Yep.
Ours came.
Mine did not.
That's too bad. But I can definitely say that they did mail it.
Okay. Maybe it's in transit or probably got lost. It's a postcard. But I would have to say I enjoy the pop-up experience. Like you, I express the same sentiment. They should have had at least one or two more artists to draw your portrait and maybe got rid of the postcard area and or expanded out a bit of the cafe. Or they could have made it like a scavenger hunt experience, because with the day prior, so Saturday, I was in West Village and I go to this magazine shop and they had the French Dispatch up and they ran out at the pop-up experience. So people were actually walking to this magazine store and asking to take it out of the display. So that they are a newspaper, or a magazine distributor. They could have actually just held it there and it been an experience of like, okay, well, once you're done with this, then you go up the street and pick up your French Dispatch. So bringing business essentially to Ali's magazine shop and then having the cafe at a cafe and then having your portraits done. So it could have been like a whole experience where one, it would have kept the crowds down in terms of people waiting, and then got like other local businesses involved with it. But then again, I'm not part of the partnerships team of this 21st Century Fox.
And Warby Parker was part of the promotion as well. So they were giving out
tote bags at some point, I think like earlier in the week, but they ran out.
And they were featured in the pop-up cafe. You could see their products on the bookshelf. So it was surprising that they couldn't find a larger space, only because I feel like there are a lot of empty storefronts right now.
Yeah, especially in that area. Excuse me.
The promotional agency that was running it did a very good job.
Yes, I agree. Maybe I'll do some research after this, but if these items like the cup and saucer and some other things are available for just standard purchase on like a website.
Oh yeah, definitely. It'd also be interesting to see if people are selling them on eBay.
Yeah, need to do that.
Right.
Because there's a lot of collectors out there. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Sure. Do you have anything to promote?
Working on the POAPs. Please download for the first episode. We will be getting POAPs out.
So in our next episode, we will be discussing the Eternals. Is it the Eternals or just Eternals?
Eternals.
All right. Eternals, we will be discussing in our next episode. It is also an I Heart Korean movie. So I run a meetup in New York City called I Heart Korean Movies. You can find us in the meetup app. We are about 200 members, but we don't really get together very often. And we certainly haven't gotten together very often over the past 2 years, but we are going to watch Don Lee as Gilgamesh. If you would like to hang out and see Eternals with us, it is tomorrow night at AMC Empire 25. And you can get all the information online. Otherwise, you can visit us on our Instagram handle. And you can also watch us on YouTube when we review that next week.
Yay. And a spoiler alert, Gilgamesh is awesome in Eternals. And so is Gemma Chan. And so is Kumail Nanjiani. They're great.
All right. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye.